Hello and welcome. I'm Lothran, and this is the second edition of Stories from the Heart of the Jakuls. Tonight we have an ancient home, so sit back, relax, grab a snack, and get ready to enjoy another story from the heart of the Jakuls. The scraping of stone upon steel echoed across the dusty, flickering shadows. Kara shivered, but held her tiny frame as still and as quiet as she would ever be able to manage. She wanted to cry out. She wanted to scream, but silence was her only necessity right now. The stone fell upon the table. Kara squirmed. It was coming back. It would come back again. She held in place behind musty old boxes full of who even cares what. Every last molecule of her body needed to flee. But where? Where would she go? She had to wait for plodding steps, careening toward the cellar door. The handle jiggled, a rusty, cursed old knob. Sometimes it stuck, sometimes the time-worn old wood creaked open with a sound like a dungeon door slowly clanging shut. "It's back to get me!" Kara stifled the cry, rising up unbidden from her throat, clamping two tiny hands over her little mouth. "It's gonna get me!" She fought against the terror threatening to rip her mind apart. Slowly, with plodding steps, it marched down the stairs. Smack! It slammed into something with its misshapen form. Grunting, it moved onward and walked around the corner, passing Kara's position. It stood at the table, shifting heavy wrought iron chains, no doubt to bind her once the beast captured poor, defenseless little Kara. The door! It's still open! Kara shifted, making a painfully loud sound of dirt scraping against bare stone underneath one of her shoes. She should have taken them off. What was she thinking? The monster turned with its almost jackal bipedal form, twisting toward where Kara's hated little brain sought for any form of escape. Panicking, she scrambled further in amongst her father's stored tools. Her mind froze as a cold, sinister hand pawed at her leg. She screamed in absolute dread, feeling oceans of blinding panic coursing all across her minuscule body, while sound unbidden exploded from Kara's lungs. Huffing and puffing, sweating and bleeding from a dozen scrapes and cuts, Kara managed momentary reprieve. The monster laughed at her sullen sorrows, finding delight in their new game. Come out, sweet little one," the creature both bellowed and hoarsely rasped in her direction. She felt tears streak down first one and then both of her cheeks. Kara pulled herself behind a heavy metal shelf, hefting as hard as she could to roll a barrel firmly into place over the opening to what was very likely the sanctuary of her inevitable demise. Footsteps from above! More of them! Kara ignored the spiderwebs covering her head as she shivered against the horror of it all. They will come for her. There is nowhere to go. The footsteps halted at the top of the stairs. Trapped where she was, Kara had trouble hearing the second monster, but the reply from the first was more than enough for the horror that was about to befall all of her possible futures. crawled back behind some things. Not a worry, no trouble to root the little beast from her den. Metal clanged upon metal. Kara felt the disgust well up from the lowest part of herself. This thing calling her a beast. She shivered all the more as one by one heavy objects were dragged across the floor. Come out, sweet little one," the beast began to almost sing with a bit of glee. Come out, no need to hide or worry about silly old me." The words of her grandfather. Kara shivered and fought the fountains of bile all anew. This thing had been watching them for some time. It had been quite a while since she'd played with her grandfather out in the garden, him singing his jaunty tune as he chased her about right before he'd fallen ill. The barrel began to shake. The monster groaned against its weight, and Kara's sudden surge of strength to hold the heavy obstacle between her small body and certain horrendous torment and the snuffing of her sweet little life. Come out, sweet little one." It paused in its ministrations, taking a wheezing breath or two, only to bend back toward its hateful, hungry, horrific toil. Through a scant shred of light, Kara caught a glimpse of the beast as the barrel wobbled against both their knees to gain purchase on the heavy container. What she saw shocked her to the core of her flimsy little bones. It was wearing her grandfather's form, loosely hanging, sagging skin, baggy, drooping clothes, crooked, bench-shaped limbs. Not knowing the shape of reality anymore, Kara let go of her iron grip on the barrel, clutching at her face while shrieking at the top of her lungs, wet, weathered hands clawing at her scrambling limbs. To no avail was Kara to be spared. Hoisted up and encircled with a solid arm, the creature hefted a bellowing sigh, constricting his delectable morsel against his shoulder and stumbling back toward the stairs. Kara struggled for all she was worth, flailing fists beating and berating her captor, her scrawny legs kicking and thrashing against the bonds of her imprisonment. But as each foot fell, one after the other, Kara found herself ever closer to the top of the stairs, whatever fate may lie beyond them. Though the monster wavered and trembled under the brunt of her attacks, it laughed all the harder at the pleasure its struggling victim brought to his toil. Arriving at the doorway, it stepped through, releasing its grip to shut the slab of wood behind them. Kara knew a good thing when it happened, and through her tears and her calming fury, she leapt away, scampering across the cold and unfamiliar creaking floors, skittering into the far corner while her mind scrambled and raced for any avenue of freedom or escape. There was none. The creature bent low, tilting its head to one side, all whilst wearing the flabby suit of her grandfather's skin in a macabre second layer of clothes. Sweet little one, what's gotten into you? Kara shrieked, clamping her hands over her ears as she tried to push her form further into the nook than reality would allow. More footsteps and distant calls echoed through the empty, featureless home. A normal place would have furniture or pictures or something to give it some form of character. This was just an empty shell, a hollow shade of what a home should be. The monster gave Kara a glance or two and waved her off, walking from the main room toward the kitchen. And then a most horrible thing occurred. Her father stepped from the other room. For a moment she felt hope. Then, as she saw him glance toward the beast, his eyes slipped off as if he saw no problem at all and continued casually walking toward her, dread growing back into the corners of her mind. "What's wrong, Kara?" her father asked, reaching out to her, worried for her sake, but blissfully unaware of the threat he just strode right by. Kara responded in the most logical way possible. She gripped her ears even tighter and screamed with every last ounce of life left in her. "Kara!" her father bellowed in that way of his, instantly calming his girl. "If you don't tell me what's wrong, I'll never know." He waggled a finger her way to admonish her for her ill behavior. "The monster," Kara whispered, hoping that this was indeed her father. He looked like he might be. If he was a fake, he was a better fake by far. "What monster?" her father asked, crouching down beside her and looking about as if to find it without having any such luck. Kara pointed to where it now sat, leaning against the far wall, looking for something in the baggy pockets of her grandfather's favorite work clothes. She hid behind her father when it turned its gaze back at them, and tried and failed to smile properly for the witnesses. Her father followed her gesture, being confused for a short while, then finally understanding. "Oh, okay, yeah, that's still your grandfather. That's Upa." He pointed at the beast. "That's Upa, you know him." The creature nodded from where he sat. "Lies! No, that's not Upa. He isn't like that," Kara shouted, wringing her hands upon the collar of her father's shirt. "That's a monster!" "Honey, do you remember what happened a month ago?" her father asked, laughing away her protests ever so slightly. "We all got sick, the whole town. Upa wasn't sick at first, then he got real sick. That thing killed him and wears him like a suit." Kara pointed toward the beast whilst hiding behind her father. "Upa was sick. He's just stubborn, and he pushes himself too hard. I'll stop working 10 days after I'm dead," the creature commented, sounding almost exactly like Upa when he said the same thing. But, shaken, Kara tried to come up with evidence. "The furniture, it's all gone." "The mites made us sick. They were in the furniture," her father replied. "It spread from house to house." "No pictures," Kara exclaimed weakly. "You helped with that. Everyone was worried about getting sick again. so we've been systematically cleaning every last bit. You remember, right? Yeah. How did I get here? Kara asked of her father. You were so worried about Upa that you talked your mom and I into helping him out yesterday. You were very insistent. Her father booped her on the nose with the tip of one finger, eliciting a slight smile from his daughter. Oh, yeah. How did I end up downstairs? He took me there? Did he? I seem to remember watching you get up and go to the bathroom a couple of hours ago. But our bathroom and Upa's basement are in the same place in different houses. Could it be that you forgot you were in Upa's house and thought you were back home while half asleep? Her father asked of her with all that cold, discerning logic he always displayed so easily. It could be, Kara trailed off, not sure what was happening anymore. This has been An Ancient Home, the second in the series from the heart of the Jakuls. Join us tomorrow when we discuss the meaning of this tale and why it ends the way it does. As always, I'm your host, Lothran, and I implore each and every one of you to stay safe out there.